Man, this is Deion Dawkins, man, and you're listening to The Scoop on OwlScoop.com. You already know.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to The Scoop, the weekly podcast of OwlScoop.com, the authority on Temple Athletics. We are on to episode 29 of season 11. I'm your host, John DeCarlo, the editor of OwlScoop.com. We have a mostly full house today. Kyle Gauss, our assistant editor, is with us, along with Colin Schofield and Ryan Mack. No Jacob Marino today. He's swamped. He's got some other duties as assigned. Maybe we'll get him back next week. But got a fun show ahead for you guys. We'll, of course, talk about what's going on with the men's and women's basketball teams. They both have their respective challenges ahead as that conference tournament in Birmingham gets closer and closer. You'll hear a little bit of my conversation with Temple recruit Derrick Morton-Rivera. If you are living here in the Philadelphia area, you might know that Father Judge repeated as Philadelphia Catholic League champions. That's the first time in their history that they've done that. A really big deal for that program. They hadn't really been a Catholic League power since the late 90s, and they entered the PCL tournament as the 6th seed. Derrick Morton-Rivera had 27 points against Archbishop Wood in the PCL semifinal, and then had 14 in the championship game on Sunday. Got the chance to catch up with him Monday night. You'll hear part of my conversation with him. We're going to talk a little spring football. We got the spring schedule yesterday. Spring practice begins on March 10th. We'll talk about looking ahead, some educated guessing, some prognosticating about something that we think might be a surprise coming out of spring ball. And we'll have answers to your mailbag questions as well. The Scoop, as it always is brought to you by Greenspan and Greenspan Injury Lawyers. If you've been injured while on the road or the highway and the crash was someone else's fault, the insurance company is not going to be on your side. You need us, Temple Law grads, who will fight hard to get the compensation that you deserve. We only get paid if we win, so in Pennsylvania or New York, call us today at 215-261-7359. That's 215-261-7359. And you can find them on the web at greenspans-law.com. That's greenspans-law.com. A reminder that you can still subscribe to OwlScoop.com, $1 for your first 5 days, and that gives you a free year of The Athletic. So if you're an NFL fan, mock drafts galore, Eagles coverage, Sixers coverage, Flyers coverage, Ryan Patriots coverage,
boo,
Colin Broncos coverage,
boo,
Orioles coverage. You
boo.
get a lot with The Athletic. So a great time to subscribe to The Scoop. Gentlemen, what's going on? How you guys doing?
I'm feeling swell.
Swell?
For the most part.
Are you an extra in a 1957 movie?
Swell.
Feeling swell?
Swell over there, Ryan?
It's almost spring break. I'm so excited.
I'm very excited.
What are your
It's
spring break
last spring
plans?
break of your life, right?
Yeah.
You
You guys went to Columbia last year for spring break, right?
Yeah. And then this year, Colin and I are going this year, but 3 of our roommates plus Austin, they're going to Cancun on Saturday morning. They're staying till I think they're till Saturday
I
or
have
they're
no
till
idea.
Friday. I
Colin
also do that.
clearly doesn't care.
I
I
also
was not
I'll
involved.
be sure to
Yeah.
relay that to Austin in class tomorrow. Like, Colin doesn't care about your trip.
I
I
don't.
Austin's such a nice guy. They'll probably be like, "It's okay."
Yeah.
Well, what are you guys? Do you guys have plans? Are you not
I'm
going anywhere
going-
because the
I
inquiry
leave-
shit?
I'm going to San Antonio from Friday to Wednesday to visit my girlfriend, Julia's sister, her husband, and her niece. So I train back to Julia's on Thursday. We fly out on Friday. We're there from Friday to Wednesday. And then I'm back for the back half of spring break. But get some time in San Antonio, away from the cold and snow for once.
Have you been? I've never been to San Antonio. I've heard
I've
full-
not. The only time I went to Texas was when we went to Fort Worth last year.
Yeah,
for the
I'm sure
American
Lillian Prieto can give you some recommendations.
Lillian's been talking to me and Julia about it. She's excited for us.
What are you doing, Ryan? Just
I'm going up to visit Jay.
Okay.
For a little bit.
and then he's coming down to visit us in a
Yeah,
couple weeks.
yeah, he's coming down on the 12th to the 13th. So I'm really excited.
Can we ask him about being on Law and Order, being
Yeah.
on Broadway?
Get him on the pod.
Special
Okay.
guest on the scoop.
Get him on
Yeah.
the pod. Get him on the pod. I
How's-
think he would.
How are we doing with the potential Jill Scott episode?
She has been so busy, just going for just with interviews and stuff.
Great. So
I
she's
have-
already in the right mindset then.
Yeah.
So I haven't-
Being on the scoop's gonna be like a piece of cake. She should
It's gonna
not
be like
at
a
all.
press junket. Like,
Yeah,
we
I
just
haven't-
want 10 minutes.
So I haven't had a chance to talk to her. My mom has because she saw her 2 weeks ago
Mm-hmm.
on Valentine's Day.
Wow.
But he's been so busy. But yeah, he's gonna come up. He's coming down here from the 12th to the 13th. Probably leaving like maybe I think leaving the 14th early in the morning because he'll have work
Okay.
that afternoon. So we'll try to figure that one out. But I'm gonna show him around. He'll be in the office for a little bit.
So Jay is confirmed. We got to work on confirming Jill Scott.
Yeah.
Can you send Joe Scott a link to the Temple men's basketball Owl Sports page and just say study up? And that's
She doesn't
certification
need
on
that.
the
We
scoop.
can. I mean, if she wants to talk Temple sports, great. But I
I
have some easy
say-
questions for her. Yeah.
I say we just do what people were doing in like March and April of 2020, where they would just randomly send people Zoom links and see who would join. I say we just
Ooh.
send Jill Scott a Zoom link. See if she joins.
She has to join if it's from you, right?
Right. If you send her a
Yes.
Zoom link, it'd be rude for her not to join.
Yeah. Well, I thought the whole goal was to get her here in person when she comes in for commencement.
Yeah,
I
he should be
just
here.
want the 20-second clip. This is Jill Scott, and you're listening to The Scoop. That's all I want.
It would make my year. You asked me for Rosebud Thorn. Like, imagine what I would be able to say in that week if, like, Jill Scott is coming here to join us on the scoop.
I think she would love it. I think she.
I,
think she
I
would love it.
even she would be doing us a huge favor. We would love it. I don't know. I'm not sure how excited she would be about being on the scoop, but again, I'll talk about whatever she wants to talk about. We'll ask her a couple questions about you as a kid.
Mm.
I have musical questions. I have just whatever she wants to talk about.
She might not have some crazy ones for me, but I have them on the phone. But she has some funny ones for Jay.
Okay.
There was one time she came up for Jay's graduation, like high school graduation. She looked at him. She's like, "Oh, you're getting like so handsome." It was rough for a couple years. We weren't sure how you were gonna end up, and Jay was just like,
It's
he was
amazing.
like, just sat there, and he was like,
He's a handsome guy. Yeah. He's on Broadway. He's on TV.
For a couple of years.
Well, I mean, I don't think Jill Scott got to where she was in her career, but by not being honest,
it was the
So-
funniest thing ever.
it's amazing.
Speaking of people with famous family members, Derrick Morton-Rivera.
Nice
Which famous
segue.
family member am I speaking of, though?
Would you
Yeah.
guys know? You probably don't know.
I'm going with Hank.
That's a great segue because earlier in the intro, I mentioned that we're going to be talking about Father Judge guard Derrick Morton-Rivera, the guy who scored 14 points in the Philadelphia Catholic League Championship game win over Newman Gretty, 27 in the semifinal win over Archbishop Wood. He signed with Temple back in November. Again, Judge is a back-to-back PCL champion for the first time in the program's history. And they repeated 20 years after his father, DJ Rivera, helped Newman Gretty do it. So there's been just a really cool past couple of years for the Judge program, for Derrick Morton-Rivera, for his father, DJ Rivera. Kyle, who is that family member? We started to say it. I wouldn't have expected these guys to get it. DJ Rivera is the nephew of, if you guys drive west on Diamond Street, if you've ever driven down Diamond Street, 22nd, 23rd,
Is the Hank
24th.
Gathers one?
There you go.
Yes.
Oh,
Oh,
He's the
yeah, I know
nephew
Hank
of
Gathers.
the late Hank Gathers, who
Close.
was just a basketball giant in the city of Philadelphia. Passed away while he was playing at Loyola Marymount. So really cool basketball family. And it's been a really fun year for them. Last year when Derrick scored or surpassed the 1,000 career point mark, he and his father became the first father-son duo in the PCL to accomplish that feat. And Derrick, you might have read about this again. You've got some people listening to this podcast who might be hardcore high school Philly hoops fans. He came back several weeks early from a high ankle sprain in December that he said he should have put him out for 8 to 12 weeks. 12 weeks would have put him out pretty much for the whole season. But if you read my story that's up on the site now, again, a great reason to subscribe to OwlScoop. Subscribers can get that story. He had the high ankle sprain in December before they were set to go play Archbishop Spalding. And so he told me that he's still really not able to jump off his left foot. You wouldn't necessarily know the way he's been playing. So just a really, really cool story. And I think Temple fans, I get it. They've lost 4 in a row. You've got concerns about this current season. Not going to gaslight you, but they got a good player coming in that I think fans can be excited about between his skill, his versatility, the way his game has started to come together, and the fact that he's a guy that has come from a winning program and has been a big reason why Judge has become a winning program, what Chris Rowntree and his staff have done there. We've mentioned this before on the pod that Kyle's wife, Meg, her friend Mara Fox, good friend of hers, her father is the late Bill Fox, who was a really, really good coach at Judge before, and just what's going on over there is really cool. Like, again, that is the Philadelphia Catholic League, as a lot of you know, has been dominated by Roman Catholic, by Newman Goretti, Archbishop Wood, Bonner and Prendy. They've got a couple of good players now. So what Judge is doing is really cool. And Derrick Morton-Rivera, yeah, he's gracious and talks a lot about his teammates and the good thing they've got going on there. But he's been at the heart of all of that. So I'm going to play a short clip from our interview here. You're going to hear him talking about how his game has evolved and then how he sees himself fitting into Temple next year. And he's been to a lot of games at Temple and just talked about just how he's been welcomed by the staff and what he thinks he can do next year. And then we'll have more for you in terms of Temple basketball talk on the other side here. A lot more men's hoops talk, spring football, and of course, mailbag questions as well. What have Bobby Jordan and Adam Fisher told you about for next year? Because obviously you're going to be able to probably step in and contribute right away. What I know, obviously, we got to get to the summer and all that stuff, but what do they say to you now as they've continued to watch you, and what kind of role do they envision for you next year?
Just more so just playing my game and kind of just being me. I went to a lot of the games. I see how they play. They play up and down, it's more so just about, I really like how they're like a family. Like, every time I went down in the locker room, like, I like how they're all together. Like, they seem like a family. They just have so much chemistry. And the coaches staff, they treat everybody like family. Especially me being from Philly and them being a hometown team, like, it already feels like family to me. Like, I just got to come in there and do what I need to do and just help the team win.
Where do you feel like you are now as a player as opposed to like where you were at the beginning of the season? Where do you feel like you've gotten better?
Yeah, definitely like my finishing. I rely on my jump shot a lot sometimes, and I learned to just not take too many. Like, I learned to take open jump shots more so because I have a great ability to get downhill. So I try to use, especially these past couple games, I've been shooting mid ranges and getting downhill a lot. I think the last 3 games I haven't shot more than probably like 4 threes, and that's like unusual for me. I usually shoot a lot of threes, but I try to get downhill a lot, rebound more, and I get my teammates open when I do get downhill, because when I do get downhill, a lot of people collapse on me, and I try to get my teammates open.
Speaking of this Temple men's basketball program that Derrick Morton-Rivera could help next season, they've now lost 4 in a row after Saturday's loss at Wichita State. They're now in 8th place in the league standings. They're tied for 7th, but they lost to Memphis. So if the season were to end today, they would certainly lose that tiebreaker there. Look, there are a lot of reasons for why they're losing, why things haven't been firing for them. Gavin Griffiths has been mired in what's become almost a 2-month slump. Back on January 7th, he scored what was then a season-high 24 points on 9 of 16 shooting in Temple's win over ECU. And the 9 games that followed, heading into the Wichita State game, he had averaged just 7.8 points and shot 30.4%, including just 17%, almost 18%, 11 of 62 from three-point range. Now he's had the calf injury that's been nagging. He was sick part of that time. He did take a small step in the right direction at Wichita State, hit 2 of 3 from 3 in 25 minutes, but he still hasn't scored in double figures in more than a month. Guys, they play FAU Thursday night. Now, FAU, we'll get into them a little bit, and they're 2-7 since they beat Temple at the Liacouras Center. That's included a 6-game losing streak. They've had injuries, but let's start with the team at hand that we're covering. Just 5 assists over the weekend, just really struggling at both ends of the floor. They kind of are what they are at this point. We've talked at length about how the league is up for grabs, but on the flip side of that, teams are starting to separate themselves. USF is starting to separate itself, and we've talked loosely about the fact that like they have to be careful and not let this losing streak continue, or if they do, there's a chance that they could miss the tournament. Do I think that's going to happen? I don't know, but a response on Thursday on the road in Boca against FAU is going to be huge for them. But I know it sounds like the simple question: how do they get themselves out of this? A bump from Gavin Griffiths would be big for his confidence and big for their confidence. But they are facing a team on the road Thursday that has also been struggling, and I like their roster when they're at full capacity. Talking about FAU, but how does Temple stop the bleeding here? Because it's on one hand, we don't want to over sensationalize this. That we've talked about how a lot of these teams are scrunched together and there wasn't much separating 2nd place from 10th place. And now we've seen that variance and how quickly Temple can slide down the standings, but they have to cut this out. They have to get back on track. Do you think they can? And if so, what do they need to do to snap out of this?
For me, it's just consistency, honestly. Like we've seen Temple like time and time again where they have stretches where they look like they can be one of like the best teams in the American Conference, but they're holding up teams where it's like they're playing well on defense. They're not turning the ball over. They're hitting their shots. They're getting open looks and they're connecting on them. They look just like a well-oiled machine. And then even on defense, we saw this in the UAB game where it was like we talked about how their paint defense needs to be better. But that was probably one of the best games Jermai Felt had played all year, where like he was all over the floor, whether it was grabbing loose ball, blocking shots, grabbing rebounds, not letting the offense just like back him down and get easy buckets in the paint and not fouling. We've been able to see that. But then on the flip side, we've also seen them go on 6 minute spurts where they're not scoring well. 5 minute sports where they're not scoring at all, then they're turning the ball over. Or they're getting open looks, missing them, then turning the ball over. Even if the defense isn't allowing anything to like slip or anything, the fact that their offense isn't going at all, there's only so much that the defense can do. Points are going to happen. Careless turnovers are going to happen. Careless fouls are going to happen. We've seen that time and time again. We saw that against Wichita State where they won like what a 6.5 minute, like 5.5, 6.5 minute scoring drought in that second half, and that turned out to be the biggest thing in that game. So that's honestly my biggest thing for this team.
And how often, I want to address this in a question in the mailbag, how often is it happening in the second half when you see depth wearing down, people wearing down, and when you're playing a lot of guys 30, 32, 35, 38 minutes a game, stuff like that will happen.
I can just kind of build on what Ryan said and kind of talk about Gavin Griffiths a little bit more with that depth. Like you kind of said, it feels like in that second half, feels like it's when a lot of those scoring like droughts start to happen. It feels like they start to lose those games, especially kind of against Wichita State or Tulane or North Texas, where it feels like they have these leads at halftime or they're right in this game at halftime, and then all of a sudden, kind of in that second half, there is just like a stretch where they all of a sudden they go from up maybe 5 or 6, or maybe down by only 2 or 3, and then they're down by 8, 9, 10, and it feels like that deficit is insurmountable to come back from, just because they don't have the ability, they don't have the personnel to really make that happen without the depth. And that's where Gavin Griffith struggles, I think, come in for me, is with him struggling, you have nobody kind of step into that spot and replace him. And they were kind of missing that, 3-point shooting that would kind of drag them out of those droughts a little bit, or kind of provide that spark. And without him being able to do that, I think he's kind of shown how important he was to this offense in the first part of conference play when they were on that winning streak. And now with him really struggling, we've kind of seen it kind of deteriorate without that depth.
The depth issue for me is the type of depth. Because, like, I think they have pieces off the bench that can play roles when the rest of the offense and the rest of the team is playing well. Like Messiah Gilliard, if you need him to just be like a bulldog and occasionally hit a three and stuff like that, like he can do that. Babatunde Duradola obviously can give you like some minutes in the paint. I think the issue is they don't have like a liquid offense guy off the bench. That kind of goes back probably to the roster construction of they were really hoping to rely on CJ Hines and AJ Smith. But like at this point, you're 27 games into the year. Like this is what the team is. So like there's going to be games in the future if they want to somehow right this ship and make a run and try to advance out of the American, like they're going to need guys off the bench to score points. And it seems like every game it's like 4 bench points, 0 bench points. Like it's pretty consistently that scoring, unless Gilliard gets hot, is just not a strength of this bench. Because you look at that Wichita State game, and if you look at just like a box score, if you didn't watch it, you would say like, how did Temple lose by double digits? They only turned the ball over 7 times. They shot 38% from 3. They had 10 offensive rebounds. The issue is they had 4 bench points. And they got bullied on the boards with defensive rebounds. Like, I think the roster construction from top to bottom with Wichita State just at this point in the season is a lot better than Temple's, and I don't know what the solution to that is.
So Thursday at Florida Atlantic, as I said before, FAU is 2-7 since it beat Temple at the Accor Center. 6-game losing streak. They've had injuries. Kanan Carlisle, their starting point guard, had a calf injury that got him at ECU back on February 1st. That forced him to miss part of that game, the next 2 games. Josiah Parker, the freshman who scored 22 points off the bench in the win over Temple, is in their starting lineup now. They've lost some close games. They just lost 3 days ago on Sunday at North Texas. So 2 teams that at one point, both Temple and Florida Atlantic, that were showing some promise early on, and 2 teams now that are fighting and scrapping for just better seeding heading into Birmingham next month. But whether it's more points off the bench, but as Kyle said, I don't know where they're going to get them from. Again, like I think in the perfect world, you weren't going to ask this many minutes of Messiah Gilliard, but here he is. You want him to offensive rebound. You want him to hit shots off the bench, which I'm sure he's glad to do and wants to do. But yeah, you're not getting anything from Spencer Mahoney. I don't think you're going to get anything from Spencer Mahoney. You're not going to get what you got out of Muhammad Keita against USF on a daily basis. So, it's not just putting it all on Gavin Griffiths, but boy, a Gavin Griffiths resurgence sure would be big for this team over the next few games here. So again, Thursday night at Florida Atlantic, a big game. They're all big for Temple from here on out. So stay tuned for that. We'll have coverage of that game. Diane Richardson's women's team has won 2 in a row, but again, we're recording this on Wednesday night. They face Rice, a team that has won 19 games in a row. And Tristan Taylor's stat is very much up in the air. Colin, you were at practice yesterday?
I was at practice yesterday.
Or they would
kind
have
of
put up a shoot around today. Sorry.
the last 30 minutes of practice, and it was like kind of like the 5-on-5 like portion, like the practice players going against like different matchups, and she didn't participate in any of that from what I saw. And then like kind of the end of practice free throw shooting she didn't participate in. She had a pretty sizable back brace on. I know it was a back injury she went out with at kind of the end of that first half. She was in practice clothes, so she might have practiced before I got there and just wasn't going for like the kind of the main portion of it, that 5-on-5 portion. But I mean, she had a pretty big back brace on.
Obviously, even if she does play and she's 100% healthy, they're still underdogs in this game for good reason. Rice is playing really, really good basketball. I'll throw this scenario out there. If they are able to pull off an upset of Rice, it is because fill in the blank.
It is because about everything went right. I mean, I will say I think they believe they can beat Rice. They probably should have beat Rice at Rice, but they missed some pretty critical free throws down the stretch of that game.
Very much
and
competitive against them in the last game.
And that was kind of like the message at the end of practice from Diane and the coaching staff was free throws, free throws, free throws. The last like 5 or 10 minutes was all free throw shooting. But I think, especially if Tristan Taylor doesn't play, you're going to need a really, really big game from Kayla Turner. And I think a really, really continue to see a strong game from Savannah Curry in place of Tristan Taylor. But they're going to need to not turn the ball over, shoot well from 3, I think, kind of get to the free throw line, make their free throws. It's going to have to play probably one of their best games of the season to take down Rice tonight.
7 p.m. game at the Liacouras Center for the Temple women's basketball team. Of course, we'll talk more men's and women's hoops next week. Guys, we're getting that much closer. Spring ball, it's here. It's upon us. Spring practice starts March 10th. The Cherry and White games is Saturday, April 11th. They're going to be in a Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday schedule. So we will have plenty of spring football coverage for you. So same thing. They're going to have position coaches available, players available. Practices are going to be open. Again, we'll try our very best to digest what we're seeing, bringing you the proper amount of context. But 44 new players on the spring roster, 109 players on that roster, 44 of those newcomers. 4, of course, quarterbacks are coming in, Jackson Smolik, Johnny Shepard, and then the 2 freshmen, Brody Norman and Brady Palmer. They're going to be vying for that job or the right to replace Evan Simon, a quarterback. Coaches could leave between, now and the end of the spring season. You've seen that happen before, but so far, a remarkably stable offseason for Casey Keeler. All of his position coaches are back. His coordinators are back. They were able to retain a lot of important players on the offensive line. But again, this is going to be an ongoing conversation from now over the next 6, 7, 8 weeks. But let's have some fun with this, guys. Give me one player you think we'll be talking about coming out of the spring, and you cannot mention the quarterbacks. We'll talk plenty about the quarterbacks. It's obviously a big. What'd you say?
So don't tell me what I can't do.
All right, Kyle. We'll let you talk about the quarterbacks. Are you happy? Kyle, why don't sit? You're fired up. Why don't let's get you started here.
I'm gonna say Ace of Locks. I'm gonna think they bring the JUCO guy that I think has a situation. This school, historically, at least recently, has been pretty reliant on junior college defensive backs, and I don't think that's an exception this year. I think they brought him in to push for a starting position. You heard Clayton Barnes say that. Maryland native, decent size at quarterback. I think they list him at 6'1". I'm going to say he is going to shine in spring.
Mine's Kevion Mason. I'm really interested to kind of see how he looks in the backfield with another year under his belt. We saw him come on kind of strongly at the end of last season in that backfield. Now without Jay Ducker, and I mean Hunter Smith is back, who showed flashes at points, kind of like a big play threat. They brought in Sam Brown, and then obviously some of the freshmen like R.J. Blunt. But I think Kevion Mason, if he has a really good spring, really big spring, kind of makes people excited about that backfield without Jay Ducker, is a guy that we're going to be talking about.
Ryan?
I wasn't gonna say Asalox. I was gonna go
Is it
originally.
Asa or Asa? It's Asa.
I does not have the pronunciation.
I'm not sure. If
After
I
again.
mispronounced it, I'm sorry. If Ryan mispronounced it, he's not sorry.
Wow. But originally,
Ryan's not rattled.
no, sorry. Originally, I was gonna go Adrian Lang, especially because having seen him and Denzel Chavis play in the last season when Jalen Casper got hurt, and when they would have to take out Ben Osweke, we see that they trusted in them. And even though they brought in some guys from JUCO ball in that like kind of like first period in that first like kind of half recruiting class, they still had a very big trust in those two. And even when the actual portal hit, they did not even touch any cornerbacks coming in. It was all safeties coming in. So I do think they have a trust in Adrian Lang and Denzel Chavis this year. Not saying that Oslak isn't going to be a starter or Nikhil Lawrence is not going to be a starter. But I do think there is a semblance of trust, and I do think going into this season now as a redshirt sophomores, I would not shock me if we are like kind of talking about them a little bit more once spring practice is over.
No, if that's the case, if that ends up being the case where it's Denzel Chavis or Adrian Lang, that's the first time in a while that Temple's like developed a freshman corner into a starter. Because for the last, even before Keeler, like going back to Drayton and Rod Carey, they relied a lot on like fifth year guys, or conversely, a guy that just like hit the ground running, like Jamel Johnson Jamel Johnson they bring in as a transfer. Jalen McMurray is like a day one guy, so it's either like they were immediately ready or they had to bring him in from somewhere else. Last year, saw with Jalen Castleberry. If they can develop a pair of freshmen into sophomore starting corners, that probably says a lot about like the health and stability of the program, as opposed to like past years where it's just always been like patchwork in the secondary.
Very good point. I want to go with like one of the offensive linemen because again, I think there's a lot of stability there. If Jacoby Hills, Eric King, Grayson Maines, and Jackson Pruitt continue to hold up, that's obviously a good thing. But I'm very interested to see what John Stone could do. Does he push for one of those starting guard spots? Does he push for the starting center spot? Does Rance McDermott come in and that right tackle spot is open? So you've got, I think, some fun battles that will, as cliche as it sounds, make people better there. And I think they're in a good spot there. I think we'll be talking about Jace Freeman, the Stony Brook transfer at wide receiver. They seem really excited about him. There's a void there with Kajaya Holloway gone. And you're relying a lot upon JoJo Bermudez, Colin Chase, but there's a void there to be filled. Obviously, being able to bring Peter Clark back at tight end is really big there. But I think bringing in a guy with the similar build, 6'4", 225 pounds, but a guy that has done it, did it at Stony Brook. I think he's a guy that's going to flash in the spring, and I think it's a guy that we're going to be talking about on that side of the ball. Of course, first, second, third, fourth, and fifth storyline, it's going to be who's throwing him the ball. We'll talk about that plenty heading into spring ball, but a little taste of what's ahead there for spring ball. So again, if you're an OwlScoop subscriber, you can check out our football board. You'll see the football media availability schedule, so you can see who we're talking to, when we're talking to them, and we'll try to get pieces of that audio here and there on the pod in the weeks to come, but a lot more spring football ahead. Before we hop into the mailbag here, let's give a nod to the Temple women's lacrosse team. They're 5-0 heading into today's game at number 17 Penn at Franklin Field, and their best start in how long?
2012.
2012. So quite a while. Bonnie Rosen hasn't playing good lacrosse, and look, let's be honest. A lot of the non-revenue teams have not played well and have not had good seasons so far. We don't want to jinx them. This is kind of like a beacon of light for the athletic program right now. Colin is a co-sports editor at the Temple News, in addition to working for us, in addition to interning for the Inquirer. What can you tell us about this team and why Temple fans who are looking for something to be excited about should be excited about them?
It's this team, they have all the pieces to be extremely competitive in the American Conference this year. Last year was their worst year since 2009. And it was because they were young. Like I think they only had 2 or 3 upperclassmen. One of them was Amelia Wright, who missed 8 games. And now this year, head coach Bonnie Rosen, who's in her 20th year leading Temple, the culture that she has built, I think, is in full effect for this year, where basically everybody came back who played last year. And Amelia Wright came back and used her medical red shirt. And now you're kind of seeing everyone kind of take that step up with another year of experience. Amelia Wright has been, leads the team in goals with 14. She looks like her old self. She was expected to be one of the best offensive players last year, missed 8 games with a hand injury, and now this year she's fully back to health. Lexi Culp has taken a massive leap this year and leads the team in points. Sabrina Martin has built on her strong junior year and is second on the team in goals. And it's just kind of through and through, everyone had that little bit of experience and came back with Bonnie. And now you're kind of seeing they've already surpassed that win total from last year. They have a major challenge against Penn today, their first really big test of the year. But they have those pieces on offense where last year the offense was stagnant because, there wasn't the experience and Amelia Wright was hurt. And now it's like all those players came back with Amelia Wright, and you're seeing everyone kind of fit into their offensive roles, and they're 5-0 now and scored double-digit goals in the first 4 games. And it's a lot of promising things when a lot of players come back, where now it's an older team that can compete in the American against teams like James Madison or South Florida, who are constantly, at the top of this conference.
Yeah. Big game ahead for the Owls at number 17 Penn in West Philly over at Franklin Field. I want to give a shout out to one of our freelancers, Morgan Killian Mosley. If you read OwlScoop religiously, you were able to check out his season preview a couple weeks ago. So a lot of good information about the team if you're looking to study up on this women's lacrosse team. Also, before we hop into the mailbag, I do want to acknowledge and extend our condolences to the family of Tre Johnson. Again, one of the best offensive linemen to ever play at Temple, and went on to a really good career with the Washington Redskins. He was a third-team All-American as a senior at Temple, finalist for the Lombardi Award, played in the 1993 Senior Bowl. So one of the best to ever put on a Temple football uniform. I'm hoping to catch up with a couple of his former Temple teammates. If you follow Lance Johnstone, he's written some really, really nice stuff about him, and just want to try to put together a story sometime in the near future that can pay tribute to his legacy. Again, a really, really good football player who's gone too soon. So we wanted to acknowledge his passing and send our best to Tre's family as well. As we do each week, before we hop into the mailbag here to answer the questions that you guys are gracious enough to submit to us, you'll hear a tip from our friend Mike Greenspan of Greenspan and Greenspan Injury Lawyers. Again, if you need an injury lawyer, he's got you covered. He's the best injury lawyer you could hope to have, but he wants to keep you safe on the roads and in life. So here's Mike's weekly tip, and then we will get into the mailbag here.
Well, it's been a real fun bunch of couple weeks, hasn't it, Temple fans? What with the weather and with results in the basketball court, puts you in a really great mood, doesn't it? Just remember, people are all in lousy moods running out on the roads at this time of year and with this weather. So expect aggressive driving, expect frustrated drivers, and make sure that you leave plenty of room between yourself and anyone near you, because they will slam on the brakes and you need to have time to react. So always remember, when you're having one of those days, take a deep breath before you get behind the wheel and make sure you arrive alive. Spring is on the way, Owls.
All right, first set of questions here in the mailbag come from Twitter, from the account The Owl of Broad Street, who has 3 questions for us here. First one, what is the most likely AC tournament seed for the Owls? I think this person means AAC tournament seed or American Athletic Conference tournament seed, but we'll give them a pass. What are we feeling here? 8 seed, 9 seed?
Yeah.
I think this is about where they land.
7, somewhere between 7 and 10. I think. It's just still such a mishmash of records and teams.
Yeah.
I think 8 feels right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, they have 2 games that I don't think they really stand much chance of winning, and they have 2 games that they have a shot at winning. So
Yeah.
it wouldn't surprise me if they finish at 8, 9, 9 and as their 7th or 8th seed.
Yeah. Which is, again, a disappointment considering where they were. Question number 2 from the Owl Broad Street. Will basketball hire some sort of GM like football? Fish clearly can't even handle one of his duties. Would they benefit from having a general manager? Sure. Sure they would. And to get into a friendly debate here, considering, how you clearly feel about Adam Fisher. Fish clearly can't handle even one of his duties. This gets into the conversation of like recruiting talent, retaining talent. Look, they are where they are, and coaching is part of it. The results are what they are. We owe it to ourselves to be fair, to be balanced, to take emotion out of it. That's something that you don't need to do as a fan, but they were able to get Jamal Mashburn Jr. here. They have been able to get some good players in the door here in a very limited budget. The results are what they are. I do think that they could benefit from hiring a GM. Do I think that they're going to be able to do that or that they will do that? Probably not. The coaches are the general managers. I think they could benefit from someone who comes in and helps out with contracts, multi-year contracts. But again, a lot of this comes down to money.
I feel like people have associated like, well, Clayton Barnes, look what he did with football, they should do it with basketball. One, I think they're two completely different sports. You're talking about a roster of 105 versus a roster of 13. So like I think it's unrealistic to expect Casey Keeler to be like, well, I have evaluated 105 people and all this and blah blah. That's also why football has like a 4-person scouting department that basketball doesn't have, because the size of the roster is so huge. Basketball, it's kind of like, look, if you think that Adam Fisher's sitting there just twiddling his thumbs and has no idea about like who may or may not be entering the transfer portal and who might be targets for him and stuff like that, I don't agree with that sentiment. I think whether it all falls on him or if it's a combination of him, the entire staff, including the chief of staff, Andy Allison, and stuff like that, I think any addition to the staff is a good thing. I think they should start with, like fixing kind of the stuff that's not working in the department, like the fact that they still haven't replaced Alan Son. Maybe that's how you fix the staff before you bring it in as general manager.
Question number 3 here. How can you guys continue to act like Adam Fisher losing 4 games in a row is okay? All right. You're an upset fan. I get it. You're entitled to your feelings. So I'm going to go out on a limb, Al Broad Street, and say that you didn't read my game story from the weekend, nor are you obligated to. But I'm gonna do a little light reading for you here, and you tell me where I'm giving Adam Fisher a break. Temple got 18 points from Aiden Tobias and 15 from Darian Ford, and little else from the rest of the team in a 69-57 loss at Wichita State Saturday night. The Owls 4th in a row as their descent into the lower half of the American Conference standings continues. 2 weeks ago, the Owls were a team within reach of first place in the league. 2 weeks later, they are a team that might be scrapping and clawing to advance to the conference tournament in Birmingham next month if this current slide continues. I went on to talk about how poorly they shot, how they got out rebounded, how they trailed by as many as 18 points in the second half. I don't know if you listen to this podcast, where we're giving the coaches a break. We say over and over and over again that coaching is a part of it. But whether you like it or not, you don't have to like it. You don't have to hate it. But we have to be, and I promise I don't mean for this to sound self-righteous, we cannot, just go on and on and on a tirade. I get it that you're ticked off. They've lost 4 in a row. You want your team to win. Totally get that. But we also cover the whole picture, the athletic department, not just the coach, not just the players. And I don't think that we give the coaches a free pass in either direction. I just don't know that if you're, which you seem to be doing with your Twitter account, if you're going on this tirade of like a fire Adam Fisher tirade, my question to you is, what coach will come in if you don't fix the underlying issues of fundraising? Adam Fisher and Casey Keeler have been the biggest fundraisers for their programs. They are actively involved with this stuff. I mean, if we see a play coming out of a timeout that doesn't work, we'll point it out. If they get out rebounded, they get outworked, we'll point it out. Adam Fisher is a good human being. If he's here next year, great. If he isn't, I'll stay in touch with him. These people come and go from our lives. But if you keep putting a Band-Aid on the major issue, I'm not sure what changes. And so as reporters, again, we get that we want fans to be happy. We like covering good things. We like seeing humanity succeed. But if you think we're giving them a free pass, you're entitled to your opinion. We're not giving anybody a free pass, but you can't just not look at the other issues at play. Coaching matters, but so do resources. I hope that they make some strides in that area. I hope they continue to make some strides in that area. But that is part of the picture. I think I've said these exact words. We are not trying to portray Adam Fisher as John Wooden or Dean Smith or Nolan Richardson or John Chaney. He is none of those human beings, but we talk about some of these second half collapses. Yeah, some of it can be attributed to coaching, but some of it can be attributed to the fact that like your best players are wearing down because they're playing 32, 35, 38 minutes a game. They hope to have AJ Smith. He's hurt. They hope to have CJ Hines. He's been dismissed from the program. Look, I think that they've made a couple of mistakes here and there with roster construction. I don't know that I ever thought it was going to be a good idea to bring Lingrier the third in. That backfired. Not that I wanted to see it backfire. Again, we're not trying to give these guys a free pass, but we can't just jump in the boat with you as a fan and say, yeah, yeah, yeah. And you have to ask questions. You have to parse things out. And that's what I will say. And I will turn it over to you guys if you want to jump in and answer this third and final part of this question, where he is asserting that we continue to act like Adam Fisher losing 4 games in a row is okay.
I think sometimes people work up the waters, I guess, and think that we're supposed to just get as high and get as low as they are, and that's never going to be the case. But I also completely understand when people are frustrated and they want to scream.
Sure.
Like, I get that. If I was a fan of Temple, I'd be pissed off, too, that they're losing 4 in a row, and it seems like every year they have a stretch of a losing streak that could have been preventable. But no, like, I'm not going to buy into the narrative of the question.
Temple fan 55 from our basketball message board. We addressed this last week. Any details on Fisher's contract extension? Will they finally hire a GM? We already answered that in the Al Broadstreet's question. Don't know. Do I think it might be a good idea? Yes. Will they actually do it? I don't know. I think multiple people have reached out about Adam Fisher's contract extension. I do not know why the athletic department hasn't addressed it. Third and final question here from a friend of the program, friend of the pod, our friend Brian Mermelstein, who is, I want to give him a shout out on this in a second. He is working for the second year in a row on a Palestra documentary. Our friend Ray Dunn is going to be doing the voiceover work on it. But Merm asks us if Derrick Morton-Rivera is the most highly anticipated Temple recruit in the 21st century. No, I don't think so. I mean, I think he's going to be a good player at Temple, but fun question nonetheless, because you can go back through the list. Who do you think was the most highly anticipated Temple recruit in the 21st century?
Shiz Alston. I think you had a guy who was a 4-star guy.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, the name was the PA Gatorade State Player of the Year. Had big-time offers that he chose to stay home and go to his dad's alma mater over. I think it was Shiz Alston.
I am going to go with a name that goes back even further at that. If we are saying the 21st century, I'm going to go with Keith Butler.
Keith Butler was before the 20th century, wasn't he? Wasn't he 1998?
Well, I thought he was at 2001.
Oh, no, you're right. 2001.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry. What was that, Kyle? What was that?
I said you're right.
Kyle has a pen in his mouth as if he's smoking a cigar. Like, you're right. Like he doesn't want to admit it. No, I mean, I completely agree with Shiz. Keith Butler was a 4-star recruit, and his finalists in his recruitment, and if you're a hardcore Temple basketball fan, you know the story. North Carolina was recruiting him, but this was after Dean Smith. Matt Doherty was his head coach. This brings Andy Kennedy into the mix. Cincinnati, North Carolina, Temple, and Keith was playing for essentially one of those diploma factories in town. He was from Massachusetts, but a 7'1" center that a lot of people were high on, and comes in, tells John Chaney that he's coming, and then also hands John Chaney a series of faxes that he had received from Andy Kennedy, the current UAB head coach, who was an assistant coach for Bob Huggins at the time. And to their credits, our friends Mike Kern and Mike Jensen reached out because John Chaney was like, "Look at this! What if you and basically was like, you're not going to develop." I'm paraphrasing here, but basically, you're not going to develop a Temple. Kevin Lai would have been a lottery pick if he came to Cincinnati. Matt Doherty's not doing a good enough job. You need to come to Cincinnati. So he hands this to John Chaney. John Chaney calls Bob Huggins, and Bob Huggins was essentially like, "Yeah, I'll address it with Andy. I'm not sure what you want me to say here." He didn't.
He also claimed that like Bill Self didn't develop bigs.
Yeah,
like the same thing. Bill Self was at Illinois at the time. He's like,
yeah,
Bill Self, good coach, doesn't develop pros. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm going to say Keith Butler. And look, Keith Butler, things did not work out for him here at Temple. He was not a future lottery pick. He eventually left and transferred to DePaul. There was a ton of anticipation around him, and Keith Butler been as good as they were hoping he was going to be, might have made a difference there. But he was a highly anticipated recruit. Shiz definitely
Was a bit of a highly touted recruit. I feel like there's been like every couple years, like Dunphy would get like a 4-star or a 4-star-ish guy. That
Who'd you say?
Obi Inechionya.
Yeah. Well, what about Lavoy Allen too?
Yeah.
Lavoy Allen, who I think the staff, they, it came down to what, Temple, Rutgers, and LaSalle, and they kind of thought that they were maybe going to lose him to LaSalle. And I think Jeff Wilson, who used to be the Franz Ops guy, I don't know if Matt Langell told me the story, but I think they were sitting around a practice and Lavoy called and said, I'm coming. And they were like over the moon. And Lavoy, their last draft pick, second rounder, goes to the Sixers. But I mean, we know program's all-time leading rebounder. We know how much he affected games for them. So he was a highly anticipated guy. So yeah, it's not to poke fun at Derrick Morton-Rivera. I think Temple's getting a very, very good player in Derrick. They've got to put pieces around him. That goes back to the Al Broadstreet's question. Roster construction and resources certainly help. I'd love to see what Derrick Morton-Rivera could do playing alongside Gavin Griffiths, playing alongside Aiden Tobias, and we'll see if that happens. But there have been some highly anticipated Temple recruits in the 21st
I don't want
century.
to like temper expectations, but I kind of want to temper expectations. Like he's still like he'll be a freshman guard coming into a situation where, if anything, like if you want to fault Adam Fisher for a lot of things, that's fine. They've done a good job of like bringing in guards like from the transfer portal. Like that seems like all they really bring in from the transfer portal. So I don't know if they're necessarily expecting like next year like Derrick Morton-Rivera is going to play 32 minutes a game.
And you're playing in what league isn't a transfer heavy league at this point? But the American is such a transfer heavy league where he's coming in and playing against guys. He's going to be playing against guys for the most part consistently that are 3 or 4 years ahead of him. Now, obviously, FAU's got a good freshman that they're getting a lot of good minutes out of, who's moved into the starting lineup now. But yeah, you're right to temper expectations. But no, they're getting a good player in Derrick Morton-Rivera. We'll give again quick shout out to Merm and Ray Dunn, who's the voiceover talent for this documentary that is coming up. You can find them on PCL Film 2026 on YouTube and Instagram and Twitter. Merm does a lot of good work there. So a masterful job, I'm told, by Ray on the voiceover work. And Merm...
Did Ray tell you that?
No, Merm told me that. Merm told me
Ray's
that.
like, I've done a masterful job.
No. Ray, I don't think Ray ever pays himself a compliment. Ray is kind of like he's a sweetheart. He's a very self-loathing guy. He doesn't pat himself on the back too much at all. And Merm, right.
What did I do?
Ryan's catching strays, but Merm does a great job running all the coverage of the Danny Rump Classic, and so I'm looking forward to this Palestra documentary. So I wanted to give him a shout out there and thank him for the mailbag question as well. So, guys, hell of an episode, hell of a season we're having here, despite the ups and downs of these Temple basketball programs. Appreciate everything you're doing. Hope you guys just get everything you want out of your upcoming spring breaks.
Ryan, do you have senioritis?
Huh?
Do you have senioritis?
Yeah, that's a yes, huh? Yeah.
Not really yet.
I do.
Yeah,
I really do.
yeah. It's not gonna hit. It hasn't really hit me yet. I have an extra semester, so I'm not graduating in May. So I haven't hit. So it hasn't hit. Yeah, so it hasn't
you have
hit me yet.
senioritis?
Really bad.
Yeah.
Really bad over here.
Well, Colin, you graduate in like 2 months, right?
You want me to forward this to your professors?
You can. I think they can probably tell. I also have senioritis. Like, I think if you ask Lauren Bullock if I have senioritis, she can tell you that herself.
You don't want to let
from when I'm in her class.
Yeah. You don't want to let Lauren down.
Oh, I will never let Lauren down. But
Yeah.
I think she knows I have senioritis. As well as the rest of my professors.
Yeah, that's why it's important for you to just unplug during the spring break coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You always get those opportunities in life going forward. You always just get, a free week off every 4 months. That always happens. That's something that they should set the expectation for the rest of your life, that will be always there.
My last real break.
I love Bitter Boomer, Kyle. Didn't you lecture? Who did you like? Was it Declan you lectured on sleeping in?
Was it Ryan?
I feel like you lectured.
I said I was tired and I got lectured.
There was that, but like Declan used to say, like he wasn't getting up before like 10 or 11, and I think you lectured him on that.
Yeah, and now look at him. Now he has to get up before 10 and 11. I feel it's my job at this organization to prepare our interns for the real world.
Yeah.
You might view them as just little trinkets to put up on your shelf and say, look, this guy used to intern for me.
What?
I'm out here trying to present them or prepare them for the real world.
Trinkets on the shelf. I don't view you guys as trinkets on the shelf.
Not yet, because they're not on the shelf yet.
Ryan is showing. Are you using ChatGPT? What is this?
I think that's a couple years ago.
That's the first time I'm seeing that. Ryan is taking some sort of photoshopped picture of me on someone else's body. We'll talk about it more after we stop recording. So anyway, thank you to Derrick Morton-Rivera for taking some time to talk to me this week. We've got plenty of basketball coverage heading your way, plenty of spring football coverage heading your way. Appreciate all the mailbag questions, and we will talk to you all next week.